I have the pleasure to present to you
an issue lay bare the secret heart of America itself.
In what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
All men are created equal.
False statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
Government by consent of the governed.
To deceive the American people.
Give me liberty or give me death.
Divisive at a time when we need unity.
Our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger.
Americans should not expect one battle, but a lengthy campaign, unlike any other we have ever seen. Our nation has been put on notice. We're not immune from attack. The hour is coming when America will act, and you will make us proud. This is the fight of all who believe in progress and pluralism, tolerance and freedom. Fellow citizens, will meet violence with violence.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Thank you very much, President.
Mr. President pro tempore,
Reverend Clergy, all
members of Congress,
Hawkins, I speak tonight in
fellow
so many
glory
different
of
ways.
the dignity of man,
exemplifies
delegation.
what we mean by the word citizen
of
of
all
you,
of you.
and so we are
I
very grateful
I
to you
urge
for all
every
the work that is
member
done,
of both
and
parties,
my heart with
your
your
welcome.
gracious
I'm
delighted to be here
thoughtful
today.
Americans
introduction.
of
It is
all
already
Those of
been
you
delivered
in the
We the
National
people,
Association
by the
of
American
order to
Evangelicals
form
are
a
known
more
for your
perfect
We have
union.
seen it in the
spiritual and
courage of
humanitarian work.
passengers.
221
And
years
I would
ago,
be especially
Join
remiss
me
the
to say
hall
to
that
the
still
if I didn't
stands
discharge
across the
right now
street.
one
Passengers
personal
like
We've
a
been
dedication.
gathered,
man
and with these
named
simple
Todd
words,
Beasley.
Thank you
launched
for your
America's
presence.
Please help me
improbable
welcome his
experiment
wife,
in
Lisa,
Nancy and I
be
have
here
democracy.
tonight.
felt their presence many times
Farmers
in
and
many ways.
scholars, statesmen,
Patriots
traveled across the ocean to escape tyranny
The other day
and
in the East Wing of the White House, at a
finally
meeting
made
there,
real
someone asked me whether I was aware
independence.
of all the people out there who were praying for the president.
century ago
That
at
lasted through
And
the
I
spring of
had to say, yes, I am. Felt it, I believe in intercessionary prayer.
was eventually signed.
But I couldn't help but say to that questioner after he'd asked the
men and
question,
women
By this
at
nation,
least safely, then sometime when he would pray, he got a
We have seen
business
the state
signal.
of Ireland
colonies
in the
There's
endurance
just
and
me in
rescue
there ahead of
to
it.
a stalemate until the founders chose to allow
We've seen the
slave
unfurling of
trade to
flags, the
continue.
lighting of candles,
For at
I
least
think
20
I
years,
understand
Giving
how
of blood
Abraham
to
Lincoln
leave
felt
any final
when he
resolution
said,
prayers.
to
I
future
have been
generations.
driven many
no
times
cause
to my
for
knees
Of course,
pride
by the
in
the answer
overwhelming
to the
conviction
slavery
that I
question
have
is
nowhere
already
else to go.
embedded
There is
within our
no
Constitution.
cause
From the
for
joy and the good
satisfaction.
feeling of this
Constitution that
conference,
had
I go
at
to
its
a
very
political
core
reception.
the ideal of
For the last
equal
9
citizenship
days,
under the
the world has seen for itself
Constitution.
I don't know why, but that bit of scheduling reminds me of a story
For faith,
union
that
that
I'll
could
share with
be
you.
and
An
should be
evangelical minister
perfected
and a
over time.
politician arrived at Heaven's Gate one day together
pain
Not be enough to
and
deliver
Peter.
slaves from bondage.
after
of oppressed people.
Provide
doing
men
all the
and women
necessary
with
formalities,
freedom,
took them in
their
hand and
rights
showed
and
them where their
obligations
quarters
as
would be.
citizens.
All the
of the United
majesty
States.
of this great
Into a
government.
small single
What
room
would be
with a
needed
bed,
were
a chair,
Americans
and
in
a
successive generations
table,
willing to do
and
their
said
part
this was
to
the
protest,
clergyman,
struggle,
Our mission
and the
streets,
politician was a
through
little
a
worried
civil war,
about what might be
civil
in store for
disobedience,
him.
and always
And he
the
couldn't
Flag
believe
our
it then when
country
St.
awakened
Peter
narrow
the
that
nation.
gap
stopped in front of
between
a
the
beautiful
promise
mansion
of our
and
ideals
with
called
lovely
to defend
grounds.
and the
freedom.
reality of their time.
Many
Our
servants
grief
had
has
told him
turned to
that
anger.
This
these
was
would
one
be
of the
his
tasks
days.
to resolution.
we set
And
forth
he couldn't help but
beginning
ask,
of
he
Whether
this
we
said, but
bring
Lord,
presidential
our
how,
enemies to justice,
how do I get this
continue the
mansion
long
justice
march
to
while that
enemies.
good and holy man only gets a
Justice
single room?
will be done.
issues of
St.
prosperity
Peter said,
and
you have to
defense.
understand how things are up here.
free
You got thousands and thousands of clergy. You're the first politician who ever made it.
chose to run for president at this moment. We cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together.
But I don't want to
Unless we
contribute to a
perfect
stereotype.
leadership at such an important time.
Understanding that we
So
may
I
have
tell you,
different
there
stories,
are a
but
great
we all
many
common hope.
God-fearing, dedicated,
May not
noble
look the
men and
same,
women in
to see
public
may
life.
not
Republicans and
have come
Democrats
from the
Present
same place,
company
but
join
we
together
all
on the
want
steps
to
of
move
this
in the
Capitol.
same
And yes,
direction.
we need your
Sending
help
out
better
Bill of
future.
to
Rights
keep us
for our
ever
children.
mindful of the
Our
ideals of the
grandchildren.
principles that brought us into
This
the public
belief comes
arena.
from my unyielding faith
And should
The
we
basis of those
every
ideals and
generosity
principles is a
the
commitment
American
to freedom,
and should we
personal
devote
liberty,
our
It
wealth
also
to
comes
that
from my own
itself
story.
is grounded in the much
I'm the
deeper
son of a
realization
black man.
that freedom
unequal to
prospers
this
only
White woman from
thank you
Kansas.
where the blessings of God are
I was raised with the
avidly
help
sought.
of a white grandfather who survived
and
humbly
depression and
accepted.
served in Patton's Army during
The
World War
American
II.
experiment
And a
in
white
democracy
grandmother
rests on
who worked on the Obama assembly line
its discovery was the great
while
triumph
he was
of
overseas.
our founding fathers, voiced by
Gone to some
William
of the best
Penn,
schools in
when
America,
he
and
said,
I've lived
if
in
we
one
will
of the
not
world's
be
poorest
governed by
nations.
God,
And on behalf of
we
the
must
American
I am
be
married
governed
to a
by
black
time.
American who carries within her the blood of
Claiming the
slaves
inalienable
and
rights of
slaveholders.
men, Jefferson said,
Pass on
the
to
God who gave us life gave us
I
liberty
have
at the
brothers,
same time.
sisters, nieces,
And it was George
nephews,
Washington
uncles, and
who said
cousins
that
of every race,
of all the
every
dispositions
hue, scattered across
habits
three
that
continents.
lead to
And for
political
as long
prosperity,
as I live, I will never forget
religion
no
and
other country
morality
on earth
are indispensable
My
to
story
peace.
moments of silence and days of
And
mourning
finally,
in
that
Australia.
shrewdest of all
has
observers
made
of
me
American
the most
democracy,
conventional
Alexis de Tocqueville put it eloquently,
that it is a
after he had
story
gone on
that
a
has
search for the
sealed
secret of
into my
America's
genetic
greatness and
makeup
genius.
Dozens
the
of
idea that
Pakistanis.
this
And he said,
nation
not
is
until I
more
went into
than
the
the
churches
sum
of
of its
America
parts.
and
That out of
heard
many
his pulpits aflame with righteousness, did I understand
throughout the first
the
year of this
greatness
campaign,
and the genius
against
of a man.
all predictions,
America
This
is
was
good,
First nation in the history
we
of the
saw
world.
how
and if
hungry the
America
American
ever
people
ceases
were
to
for
be
this
good,
message of unity.
America will cease to be
Despite
great.
the temptation to view my
I'm
candidacy to
pleased
a
to-
purely racial men with states of the whitest populations in America. South Carolina, where the Confederate flag still flies.
I'm pleased to be here today with you who are keeping America great by keeping her great. Only through your
This is not
work
to say
and
that
prayers,
race has not been an
those of
issue in
millions of
this
others,
campaign.
can we hope to
Stages of the
survive this
campaign,
perilous century
some commentators
and
said
keep
either
alive
we're
this
too black
experiment in
or
liberty,
not black
great
enough.
cause.
last best hope
We
of
saw
man.
racial
Their
tensions
names
bubble to the
British
surface.
I want you to know that
Americans
this administration is motivated by a political philosophy
President scoured
that sees the greatness of America in you,
Around the
the
world,
people, and in your family,
stand there as
sisters,
guardians
neighbors,
of our
community.
liberty.
The institutions that foster and nourish values like concern for others
that the
and
discussion
respect
of
for
race
the rule of law
has
and the
taken
God.
particularly divisive.
And I don't have to tell you that this puts us
Went
in
into the
opposition
spectrum,
to, or
referred
at
the
least out
implication
of
that
step
my
with,
candidacy
a
is somehow an
prevailing attitude
exercise
of many
affirmative action.
who have turned to a
Based
modern-day
solely on the desire
secularism,
for wild,
discarding the tried
wide-eyed
and time-tested
liberals
values
to
upon which our very
racial
civilization is
reconciliation
based.
Have
on the
known
cheek.
wars.
Really,
No matter
rest.
how well-intentioned,
On the other end, we've
their
heard
value
social
system is
rights.
radically
They
different
have
from
been
that of
around
most
for
Americans.
As a
And
man,
while they proclaim that they're freeing us from
views that have
superstitions
the
of the
potential not
past,
only to widen the racial
America
divide,
they've taken upon themselves the job of superintending us by government rule and regulation.
that rightly affect.
Sometimes their voices are louder than ours, but they are
I
not
have
yet
already
a
condemned
majority.
in unequivocal terms statements
An example of that vocal superiority is evident in the controversy now going on in Washington.
Americans have many questions.
Since I've been involved,
Did I ever hear
I've
him
been
make
waiting to hear
remarks
from
that
the
could be
parents
considered
of young
controversial
America.
while I sat in the church?
How far
The evidence we have
are
gathered
they willing to go
I
in
swore
giving to
to
government
many
their
of the
prerogatives
terrorist
as
Gave
parents?
their lives
Absolutely.
for America.
Let me
Just
Just
state
as
the
I'm
case
sure
as
many of
briefly
you
and
have heard
simply as I
remarks
can.
of your pastor.
An organization of citizens sincerely motivated,
You strongly
deeply
disagree.
concerned about the increase in illegitimate birth abortions involving girls well below the age of consent.
Simply
Some time ago established a nationwide network of clinics to offer help
Instead, they
to these
expressed
girls
a
and
profoundly
hopefully
distorted
alleviate
view of this
this
country.
situation.
Is radical
Basic
beliefs.
Now again, let me say, I do not
racism
fault
as
their
endemic.
intent.
Was the
It
right
elevates
However, in their
wrong
well-intentioned
America.
efforts, these
Extremism.
clinics decided to provide advice on birth control drugs and devices to underage girls without the knowledge of their parents.
that perverts the
For some years now, the federal government has helped
Instead of
with
emanating
funds
from the
to
church,
subsidize these clinics.
Bands that
hateful
kill
ideology.
In providing for this, the Congress decreed that every effort
As
would
such,
be made
Reverend Rice
to maximize parental participation.
no argument.
Nevertheless,
This
the
at a time
drugs
when
and devices are prescribed without getting
racially
parental
charged
consent or giving notification after they've done so.
solve a set of monumental
Girls turned sexually active, and that has replaced the word promiscuous. By giving this help, in order to prevent illegitimate birth or abortion.
Devastating climate
Well,
change.
we have ordered clinics
Either
receiving
black,
federal funds to notify the parents
Latino,
such help
Asian,
has been
other
given.
problems that
In the nation,
Given my background, my college, no doubt
one of the nation's leading newspapers has created the term squeal rule
are not enough.
in editorializing against
I
us
associate
for doing this,
myself
and
with
we're being
President Reagan
criticized for violating the privacy of young people.
When I
A
joined
judge has
another
recently
church,
granted an injunction
I
against
confess
an enforcement
all that I
of our
did
rules.
was right.
I've watched
Snippets of those sermons that
TV panel shows
President
discuss this
Reagan
issue,
on the
seen
television
Negro
sets
citizen
and
kindness
go to
to
register
pontificating on our
Trinity United
errors,
Church of Christ.
but no one seems to mention morality
By
as
some
playing a
commentators.
The
part
hour is late.
in the
There's no
subject
doubt
of
that I
sex.
was
Or the
reacting
official
much
in
the same.
charge
The man I met more than 20 years ago
Is all of Judeo-Christian tradition wrong?
because he did
Are
not
we to believe that something so sacred can be looked upon as a purely physical thing with no potential for emotional and psychological harm? And isn't it the parents' right to give counsel and advice to keep their children from making mistakes that may affect their entire lives?
Dreams from my father.
Many of us in government would like to know what parents think about this intrusion in their family by government. We're going to fight in the courts. The right of parents and the rights of family take precedence over those of Washington-based bureaucrats and social engineers.
In that single note,
no law that we now
The
have
fight against parental notification is really only one example of many attempts to water down traditional values and even abrogate the original tenets of American democracy. Freedom prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged.
became our story.
when local officials are
Tears are
When our founding fathers passed the First Amendment,
to all of us.
they sought to protect churches from government interference.
the story of
They never intended to construct a wall of hostility between government and the concept of religious belief itself. The evidence of this permeates our history and our government. The Declaration of Independence mentions the Supreme Being no less than 4 times. In God we trust is engraved on our coinage.
We could start
The Supreme Court opens its proceedings with a religious invocation, and the members of Congress open their session with a prayer.
like other
I just happen to
predominantly black
believe
churches
that
across
school
the country.
children of the United States are entitled to the same privileges as Supreme Court justices in Congress.
Dancing and clapping and screaming and shouting. It may seem jarring to the untrained ear.
Last year, I sent to Congress
Church
a
contains
constitutional
in full
amendment to
the
restore prayer to public schools.
the fierce
Already this
intelligence,
session is growing bipartisan support for the amendment, and I am calling on the Congress to act speedily to pass it,
love,
to let our
yes, the
children
bitterness
pray.
and biases that make up and this helps explain
Perhaps some of
my
you
relationship
read
with
recently about the Lubbock school case where a judge actually ruled that it was unconstitutional for a school district to give equal treatment to religious and non-religious student groups, even when the group meetings were being held during the students' own time. The First Amendment never intended to require government to discriminate against religious groups. Senators Benton and Hatfield have proposed legislation in the Congress on the whole question of prohibiting discrimination against religious forms of student speech. Such legislation could go far to restore freedom of religious
disown
speech to
the black
public school
community.
students. And I hope the
I can no
Congress
more disown
considers
him
these bills
than I can
quickly.
disown my
And with
white
your help, I
grandmother.
think it's possible
A woman
we
who
could
helped
also
raise
get the
me, a woman who
constitutional amendment to the
sacrificed again
Congress
and
this
again
year.
for me, a woman who loves me as much as she loves anything in this world, but a woman who once confessed the fear of
More than a
lying
decade ago, a Supreme Court decision literally wiped off the books of 50 states statutes protecting the rights of unborn children. Abortion on demand
These people
now
are
takes
part
the
of me.
lives of up to 1.5 million unborn children a year.
This
Human
country
life
that I love.
legislation ending this tragedy will someday
Now,
pass
some
the
will see
Congress,
this
and you and I must never
justify or
rest until it
excuse
does.
I can assure you it is not. And I suppose the politically safe thing to do would be to move on from this episode and just
Unless and until it can be proven
Finally, this
that the
legislation
unborn child is not a living entity, then its right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness must be
They
protected.
want to overthrow existing policies in one of the most countries, such as
race is an issue that I believe this nation cannot enjoy.
You may remember that when abortion on demand began, many, and
that Reverend Wright
indeed I'm
made
sure
in
many
his
of you,
offending sermons about
warned that
marriage.
the practice would lead to a decline in respect for human life, that the philosophical premises used to justify abortion on demand would ultimately be used to justify other attacks on the sacredness of human life, infanticide or mercy killing.
reflect the
Tragically
complexities of
enough,
race in this
those
country.
warnings proved all too true. Only last year, a court permitted the death by starvation of a handicapped infant. I have directed the Health and Human Services
Simply
Department
retreat
to make clear to every health care facility in the United
we will never be
States
able to
that the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 protects all handicapped persons against discrimination based on handicap, including infants.
understanding.
We have taken the further step of requiring that each and every recipient of federal funds to provide health care services to infants must
Understanding
post
this
and keep
reality
posted in a conspicuous place
requires a reminder of
a
how
notice
we
stating
arrived
that
at this
discriminatory failure to feed and care for handicapped infants in this facility is prohibited by federal law.
even passed.
It also lists a 24-hour toll-free number so that nurses and others may report violations in
To
time
remind
to
ourselves
save
that
the
so
infant's
many of
life.
the disparities that exist between the African American community and the larger American community today can be traced
In addition,
to
recent
inequalities passed
legislation
on
introduced by
earlier generations.
in the Congress by Representative Henry Hyde of Illinois not only increases restrictions on
Segregated
publicly
schools
financed
were
abortion,
and are
it also addresses this whole problem of
still haven't
infanticide.
fixed them 50
I
years
urge the
after
Congress to
Brown
begin
versus
hearings and to
Education.
adopt legislation that will protect the right of life to all children, including the disabled or handicapped. Now, I'm sure that you must get discouraged at
And the
times,
inferior education they
there-
provided
you've done better than you
then
know,
and now.
perhaps. There's a great spiritual awakening in America.
Gaps between today's black and white students. Legalized discrimination where blacks were
A
prevented
renewal of the
violence
traditional
among
values that have been the bedrock of America's goodness and
business
greatness.
owners. Where
One
black
recent
homeowners
survey
could not
by a
access
Washington-based
FHA
research
mortgages.
council
Where
concluded
blacks were
that
excluded
Americans
from
were
unions,
far more
where the
religious
police
than the
force,
people of other nations.
where the fire department.
95% of those surveyed expressed a belief in God, and a huge majority believed the Ten Commandments had real
That history
meaning
helps
in
explain
their
the
lives.
wealth of income gaps.
And another study has found that an overwhelming majority of Americans disapprove of adultery, teenage sex, pornography, abortion, and hard drugs.
A lack of
And
economic
this same study showed a
black
deep
men.
reverence for the
shame
importance of
and
family
frustration
ties and
comes from
religious
not being
beliefs.
able to provide for one's
no
child
hesitation.
contributed to the roast without purpose. Problem with welfare policies.
I think the items that we discussed here today must be a key part of the nation's political agenda.
Black neighborhoods.
For the first time, the Congress is openly and seriously
Police
debating and dealing
regular garbage
with the poor and the
building
basic
code
issues.
enforcement.
And that's enormous progress right
All
there.
help create a cycle of violence.
I repeat,
right,
America is in the midst of a spiritual awakening and a moral renewal.
This
And
is
with
the
your
reality.
biblical keynote,
Reverend Wright
I
and
say
other
today,
African Americans
yes,
of
let
his
justice
generation
roll on like a river,
They came of age in the late
like another
50s and
fading
early
spring.
60s, a time when segregation was still the law of the land, and opportunity was systematically constricted. What's remarkable is not how many failed.
Now, obviously, much of this new political social consensus I've talked
How
about
many were able
is
to make
based
a
on a
way out of
positive
no
view
way?
of American history,
Those like me who would
one that
come
takes pride in our country's accomplishments and
for all
record.
those who
We
scratched
must
and
never
clawed their
forget
way to get a piece of the American dream.
No government
Those many
schemes
who
are
didn't
going to
make it.
perfect man.
Those who were ultimately
We know that living in this world
one way or another by
means dealing with what philosophers would call the phenomenology of evil, or as theologians would put it, the doctrine of sin.
young women who we see
There
standing on
is sin
street
and
corners,
evil in the world,
languishing in our
and we're
prisons,
enjoined by
without hope.
Scripture and the Lord Jesus to oppose it with all our might.
Even for
Our
those who
nation,
actually
too,
did
has a
make it,
legacy of evil with which it
questions
must
of
deal.
race and
The
racism
glory of this land has been its
continue to
capacity
define
for
their
transcending
worldview
the moral
and
evils of our
fundamental
past. For
men
example,
and
the
women
long
of urban
struggle
rights
of minority
generation,
citizens,
the memories of
for equal
humiliation
rights,
and doubt
once a
and
source of
fear
disunity
have
and
not
civil
gone
war,
away.
is now a point
Nor
of
is the
pride
anger
for all
and the
Americans.
bitterness.
We must never go back. There is no room for
That anger may
racism,
not get expressed in
anti-Semitism, or
public
other forms of ethnic and
in front
racial
of white
hatred in this
co-workers
country.
or white pride. Because my voice won't shout, and you will shout, none of what you take. At times that anger is exploited by politicians to gin up votes along racial lines and make up their politicians' own failures.
I know that you've been horrified, as have I, by the resurgence of some hate groups preaching bigotry and prejudice. Use the mighty voice of your purpose and the powerful standing of your churches to denounce and isolate these hate groups in our midst. The commandment given us is clear and simple.
The most segregated
Thou shalt
hour
love
of
thy
American
neighbor
life
as
occurs on
thyself.
Sunday morning. That anger is not
But whatever
always
sad
acknowledged.
episodes exist in our
Indeed,
past,
all too often,
any
it's
objective
distracted
observer must hold a positive view of American history, a history
keeps
that
us
has
from
been the
squarely
story
facing
of
our own
hopes fulfilled and
within
dreams
the
made into
African-American
reality.
community. In our own
Especially in this century,
prevents
America has kept the light
the
that
African-American
torches
community
freedom,
from forging the
not
alliances
just for
that need to bring
ourselves,
about
but
real
for
change.
millions of others around the world.
The anger is real.
And this brings me to our final point today.
And to simply wish it away,
During my first press
condemn it,
conference as
not
president, in answer
understanding
to a
its
direct
roots,
question,
Really,
I
it's
pointed out that as good Marxist-Leninists, the Soviet leaders have openly and publicly declared that the only morality they recognize is that which will further their cause, which is world
most
revolution.
working and middle class
I think I should point out I was only quoting Lenin, their guiding spirit, who said in 1920 that they repudiate all morality that proceeds from supernatural ideals, that's their name for religion, or ideals that are outside class conceptions. Morality is entirely subordinate to the interest of class war, and everything is moral that is necessary for the annihilation of the old exploiting social order and for uniting the proletariat.
Opportunity comes to be seen as a zero-sum game.
I think the refusal of many influential people to accept this elementary fact of Soviet doctrine illustrates an historical reluctance to see totalitarian powers for what they are.
African American is getting an
We
advantage,
saw this
landing a
phenomenon
good
in the
job in
1930s.
good
We see it too
because of
often
injustice
today.
that they
This doesn't
themselves
mean we
committed.
should isolate
They're
ourselves and
told that their
refuse to
fears
seek an
about crime in
understanding
urban
with them.
neighborhoods are somehow
I intend to do
prejudiced.
everything I can to persuade them about peaceful intent, to remind them that it was the West that refused to use its nuclear monopoly in the 40s and 50s for territorial gain,
But they have
and
helped
which
shape
now proposes 50% cut in strategic ballistic missiles and the elimination of an entire class of land-based intermediate range nuclear missiles.
politicians routinely exploited fears of crime electoral race. Talk show hosts
At the same time, however, they must be made to understand
unmasking
we will never compromise our principles and standards. We will never give away our freedom. We will never abandon our belief in God. And we will never stop searching for a genuine peace. But we can assure none of these things America stands for is the so-called nuclear-free solution proposed by some. The truth is that a freeze now would be a very dangerous fraud, for that is merely the illusion of peace. The reality is that we must find peace through strength. I would have... I would agree to a freeze if only we could freeze the Soviet global desires.
I have never been so naive as to believe we can get beyond the starvation position in a single election cycle.
A freeze at current levels of weapons would remove any incentive for the Soviets to negotiate seriously in Geneva and virtually end our chances to achieve the major arms reductions which we have proposed.
As my own.
Instead, they would achieve their objectives through the freeze. The freeze would reward the Soviet Union for its enormous and unparalleled military buildup. It would prevent the essential and long overdue modernization of the United States and Allied defenses and would leave our aging forces increasingly vulnerable. And an honest freeze would require extensive prior negotiations on the systems and numbers to be limited and on the measures to ensure effective verification and compliance. And the kind of a freeze that has been suggested would be virtually impossible to verify. Such a major effort would divert us completely from our current negotiations on achieving substantial reductions.
The aspirations of all Americans. The white woman struggled to break the last year. The white man who's been laid off.
A number of years ago, I heard a young father, a very prominent young man in the entertainment world, addressing a tremendous gathering in California. It was during the time of the Cold War, when communism and our own way of life were very much in people's minds, and he was speaking for that subject. And suddenly, though, I heard him saying, I love my little girl more than anything, and I said to myself, oh no, don't say that. But I had underestimated it. He went on, I would rather see my little girl die now, still believing in God, than have them grow up under communism and one day die no longer believing in God. There were thousands of young people in that audience. They came to their feet with shouts of joy. They had instantly recognized the profound truth in what he had said. Regard to the physical and the soul and what was truly important. Just let us pray for the salvation of all of those who live in that totalitarian darkness. Pray they will discover the joy of knowing God. But until they do, let us be aware that while they preach the supremacy of the state, declare its omnipotence over individual man, and predict its eventual domination of all peoples on the earth, they are the focus of evil in the modern world. It was C.S. Lewis who, in his unforgettable Screwtape letter, wrote, the greatest evil is not done now in those sordid dens of crime that Dickens loved to paint. It is not even done in concentration camps and labor camps. In those we see its final result. But it is conceived and ordered, moved, seconded, carried, and minuted in clear, carpeted, warmed, and well-lighted offices by quiet men with white collars and cut fingernails and smooth-shaven teeth who do not need to raise their voice. Because these quiet men do not raise their voices, because they sometimes speak in soothing tones of brotherhood and peace, because like other dictators before them, they're always making their final territorial demands, some would have us accept them at their word and accommodate ourselves to their aggressive impulse. But if history teaches anything, it teaches that simple-minded appeasement or wishful thinking about our adversaries is folly. It means the betrayal of our past, the squandering of our freedom. So I urge you to speak out against those who would place the United States in a position of military and moral inferiority. You know, I've always believed that Old Screwtape deserves his best efforts for those of you in the church. So in your discussions of the nuclear freeze proposals, I urge you to beware the temptation of pride, the temptation of blithely declaring yourselves above it all, and label both sides equally at fault, to ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, to simply call the arms race a giant misunderstanding, and thereby remove yourself from the struggle between right and wrong and good and evil. I ask you to resist the attempts of those who would have you withhold your support for our efforts, this administration's efforts to keep America strong and free, while we negotiate real and verifiable reductions in the world's nuclear arsenals, and one day, with God's help, their total elimination. While America's military strength is important, let me add here that I've always maintained the struggle now going on for the world will never be decided by bombs or rockets, by armies or military might. The real crisis we face today is a spiritual. At root, it is a test of moral will and faith. Whittaker Chambers, a man whose own religious conversion made him a witness to one of the terrible traumas of our time, his Chambers case, wrote that the crisis of the Western world exists to the degree in which the West is indifferent to God, the degree to which it collaborates in communism's attempt to make man stand alone without God. And then he said, for Marxism-Leninism is actually the second oldest faith, first proclaimed in the Garden of Eden with the words of temptation, "You shall be as gods." The Western world can answer this challenge, he wrote, but only provided that its faith in God and the freedom he enjoins is as great as communism's faith in man. I believe we shall rise to the challenge. I believe that communism is another sad, bizarre chapter in human history whose last pages even now are being written. I believe this because the source of our strength in the quest for human freedom is not material but spiritual, and because it knows no limitation, it must terrify and ultimately triumph over those who have enslaved their fellow man. For in the words of Isaiah, he giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increase strength. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. Has changed your world. One of our founding fathers, Thomas Paine, said, we have it within our power to begin the world over again. We can do it, doing together what no one church could do by itself. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Talk about the men and women of every color and creed and serve together, and fight together, and bleed together under the same proud flag. You want to talk about
guard against violence,
that should have never been authorized,
knowing it strikes from our hands the very weapons which we seek: progress, obedience to law, and belief.
And we want to talk about how we'll show our patriotism by caring for them
in Selma
and their
as
families,
elsewhere,
and giving them the benefits that they have earned.
To our
we
country
seek and pray for
and those who inflicted it. I will
We
not
seek
yield.
order.
I will not rest.
We seek
I
unity.
will not
believe
relent
with all
in
my heart
waging this struggle for
that this
freedom
We
and
will
Security
not
security for the
accept
American
the
people.
peace of stifled rights
The course of this conflict
or
is
the
clear,
order
may
imposed
never
by
be perfect.
fear
yet its outcome
or the
is certain.
unity
Generation
that
after
stifles
generation has
protest.
shown
And fear,
For peace cannot be
justice and
purchased
cruelty
at the cost of
Today,
have
liberty.
always been at war.
whenever I find myself feeling doubtful
Is not neutral.
or cynical about this possibility,
Fellow citizens,
what gives me the most hope is the next generation.
In Selma
The young
tonight,
people whose attitudes
as in
and
every,
beliefs
and we had a good day
and
there,
openness
as
to
in
change
every
have
city,
already made history.
we are
in this
working for a just and peaceful settlement. And we must all remember that after
There's
this
one
speech I'm
story in
making
particular
tonight,
that I'd like to leave you
after
with.
the police and the FBI
The story I
and
told
marshals
Fellow
have all
citizens
the great
will
gone.
meet
honor of
violence.
speaking on Dr. King's birthday
And after
at
you have
Patient
promptly
justice.
passed this
Ebenezer
bill,
Baptist in Atlanta.
assured of the rightness of our cause,
There's a young
the people of Selma
23-year-old woman,
of the
a white
victories to
woman,
come,
and the other
Ashley
and all
cities
that
of the
lies
nation
before us,
who
must
organized
still
for our
live
campaign in
Grant us
Florence,
wisdom.
South Carolina.
and work.
and may He watch over.
She'd been working to organize a
United
mostly
States of
African American community.
And when the
since the beginning
attention of the
this
nation
campaign.
has gone
And one day
elsewhere,
she was at a roundtable
they must
discussion
try
where
to
everyone
heal
went
the
around telling
wounds
their
and
story
to
and why
build
they were
a
there.
new community.
And Ashley
This
said
cannot
that
be
when she
easily
was 9
done
years
on
old,
the battleground
her
of
mother got
violence,
cancer. And because she had to miss
as the history
days
of the
of work,
South itself shows.
she was let go
President.
and
It
lost
is
her
in
health.
recognition of this
They had to file for
that
bankruptcy.
men of both races
And that's when Ashley decided that she had
have
to do something
shown
to help
such
her
an
mom.
outstandingly
I'd like to report to the
impressive
American people
Was one
responsibility.
of
on
their
the
most
state
in
expensive
recent
calls.
days.
against terror.
And so Ashley
Last
convinced
Tuesday,
her
And I'll be
mother
happy to
Again
take questions
today.
from
that
the
what
White
she
House
really
press
liked and
The
really
bill
wanted
that I am
to eat more than
presenting to
anything
you
else
will be
was
known as a
mustard
civil
and
rights
relish
bill.
from more than
sandwiches.
80 nations.
But in a larger
Because
sense,
that was
most
the
of the
cheapest way to
program
eat.
I am recommending
Without
is a
warning,
civil rights
The
provocation.
program.
mind of a 9-year-old
Its
In an act that
object is
She did
to
this for a
open the
year.
city of
Every
hope
American.
until her mom got better.
to all people
But every
of all
person of
races.
So
Every faith.
Ashley told everyone at the
Every
round table
nation.
that
Because all
the reason
Americans
she
just
had
must
joined
have the
our
right to vote.
campaign was so that she could help
The attack took
And
millions
we
of
are
other
going
children
to give them
in the
that
country
right.
who want
But it was an
and
attack
need to help their parents do
on the soul of the citizens of
Ashley might have made a different choice. Perhaps somebody told her along the way
All Americans
that the
must
source
have
of her
the
mother's
privileges
problems were
of
blacks who were on
citizenship,
welfare and
First,
too lazy
we
to
hope
work,
the
regardless
only
of
or
race.
Hispanics who were
21st
coming into the
century.
country illegally.
And they are going to
War
have
against all those who
those
seek to export
privileges
terror.
Sought
of
out
citizenship
allies
regardless
War
of
against
race.
those governments.
Anyway, Ashley finishes his story and then goes around the
But
world
I
and
would
asks
like
everyone
to
else why they're
Caution you and
supporting the
remind you
campaign.
that to
friends
exercise
They all have
Britain,
different stories and different
neighbors,
reasons.
Canada
privileges
and
takes
Mexico.
Many
much
bring up a
more than
specific
just
issue.
Our
legal
NATO
right.
allies,
And
our
finally,
allies
they
in
come to
Asia.
this elderly black
It
man
Russia,
requires
and
a
nations from every
who's been
trained
sitting there
mind
quietly the entire time.
and a
Have
healthy
offered
body.
help
And
of
Ashley
one kind
asks
or
him,
It
another.
requires a decent
From
home
military
And he
assistance,
doesn't
and
bring
the
up
chance
a
to
specific
find a
issue.
intelligence
job
information,
He does not
and
say
the
health care
opportunity to
or the
escape
economy.
terrorist
from the
He
financial
does not say
Boss.
education or the war.
Of course,
This week,
people
He
He
does
do
not
does
say that he
Islamic
was there
nation if
because of
they
Barack
are never
Obama.
issued a
taught to
statement
read or
strongly
write.
He
condemning
simply says to everyone in the room,
the savage acts
If their
of terror,
bodies
I'm
are
here
stunted from
because of
hunger,
Ashley.
emphasizing
if their
Those
sickness
acts-
goes
I'm here
untended,
because of Ashley.
if their life is spent in hopeless poverty,
itself.
strong and united.
just drawing a
Single
well
moment
the
of
diplomatic front.
recognition between that young
So
man
we
and
want
the
to
United States
open the
military,
gates
and
to
old white man
opportunity.
is not
with
enough,
skill and success.
But we're also
It is not
going to
enough
give
to
all
give
our
health care
people,
to
black
sick
and white,
camps,
or jobs to the
the
jobless,
help
disrupted
that
their
they need
or education to our children.
weakened the
walk.
Taliban
But
military,
it is where we
through those
and
gates.
destroyed most of their
It
air
is where our
defenses.
union
My first
grows
job
strong.
after
We're
college
mounting a sustained
And as so many
campaign
generations
was as
have
a
come
teacher.
to
drive the
realize over the
terrorists
course
in
out of
Cotulla,
their
Texas,
caves.
and 21
in
years
a
since
and to bring them
Van
to
small
justice.
Mexican
signed that
American
document
school.
right here
All
in
missions are
Philadelphia.
being executed according
Few
to
of them
That
plan.
is
could
where
speak English,
on the
and I
military
couldn't
front.
speak much Spanish.
Thank you very much, everybody.
At the same time,
My students were poor,
of
and they
America by
often
delivering food and medicine to
came
the
to
Afghan
class
people,
without breakfast.
who are themselves the victims of a repressive
And they knew,
regime.
even in their youth, the pain
On the
of
law
prejudice.
enforcement front, terrorists are being swept up in an international
They
dragnet.
never seemed to know
Several hundred
why
have been arrested.
people disliked them
Thousands of FBI agents are
But
on the
they
trail
knew
of
it
other
was so.
suspects here and abroad.
because I saw it in their
Working with
eyes.
countries around the world, we have frozen more than $24
I often
million
walked home late
in
in the
Al-Qaeda
afternoon
or
after the
Taliban
classes
assets.
were finished, wishing
We are
there was
aggressively
more that
pursuing
I
the
could
agents of
do.
terror around the world. And we are
But
aggressively
all I
strengthening
knew
our protections here
was
at
to
home.
teach them the little that I
This
knew,
week we established America's new Office of
hoping
Homeland
that
Security,
it might help them
directed by former Governor Tom
against
Ridge.
the hardships that lay ahead.
Americans tonight can know that while the threat is ongoing,
And somehow you never
we're
forget
taking
what poverty
every
and
possible
hatred
step
can
to
do
protect our country from danger.
when you see its scars
Your
on
government is
the
doing everything we
hopeful
can to
face
recover from these attacks
of a young child.
and to try to prevent others.
I never thought
We're acting to make planes and airports safer.
then, in 1928,
Rebuild
that I
New
would
York
be
and the
standing
Pentagon.
here in
We must act to
1965.
stimulate a slow economy.
It never
help laid
even
off
occurred
workers.
to me in my fondest
We must
dreams
fund our
that I
military.
might have the chance
This is a
to
time of
help
testing.
the
This
sons
time
and
of testing
daughters
has
of those
revealed
students
the true character of the
and to
American
help
people.
people like them all over this country.
We're angry at the evil that was done to us,
But now I
yet
do
patient
have that
and
chance.
just in our response.
And I'll let you in on a secret.
Before
I
September
mean
11th,
to
my
use it.
administration was planning an unusual call for community support. This is all about plans to break the power from the church and to strengthen the spirit of citizenship and service in our communities. And this is September 11th. The Clinton led initiative to put it on its own and raise federal revenue to the level of energy. We've shown great love for our country and great tolerance and respect for all our countrymen.
And I hope that you will
Struck
use
by
it
this,
with
that
me.
in many cities, when
This
Christian and
is
Jewish
the
women
richest
learned
and the most powerful
Muslim women,
country
women
which
of color
ever
were
occupied
afraid of
this
going out of their
globe.
homes alone, that they went
The
shopping
might
with them,
of past
that
empire
they showed true friendship and support,
is little compared to ours.
an act that shows the world
But
the true
I
nature
do
of
not
America.
want to be the president who built
Our war on
empire.
terrorism has nothing to do with
Our
differences in
sought
faith.
grandeur,
It has
our
everything to do with
extended
people of all
dominion.
faiths coming together to condemn hate and evil
I want to be the
and murder and
president
prejudice.
who educated young children
month after
to
great
the
suffering and
wonders
sorrow,
of their world.
America's strong and determined and generous. America
I
is such a
want to
country,
be the president
and I know we are ready for
who
the
helped
challenges
to
ahead.
feed the hungry and to prepare them to be taxpayers instead of tax eaters. I want to be the president who helped the poor to find their own way and who protected the right of every citizen to vote in every election. I want to be the president who helped to end hatred among his fellow men and who promoted love among the people of all races and all regions and all parties. I want to be the president who helped to end war among the brothers of this earth. And so, at the request of your beloved speaker and the senator from Montana, the majority leader, and senator from Illinois, the minority leader, and Mr. McCulloch and other members of both parties, I came here tonight not as President Roosevelt came down one time in person to veto a bonus bill, not as President Truman came down one time to urge the passage of a railroad bill, but I came down here to ask you to share this task with me and to share it with the people that we both work for. I want this to be the Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, which did all these things for all these people. Beyond this great chamber, out yonder in 50 states are the people that we serve. Who can tell what deep and unspoken hopes are in their hearts tonight as they sit there and listen? We all can guess from our own lives how difficult they often find their own pursuit of happiness. How many problems each little family has. They look most of all to themselves for their future. But I think that they also look to each of us. Above the pyramid on the Great Seal of the United States, it says in Latin, God has favored our undertaking. God will not favor everything that we do. It is rather our duty to divine His will. But I cannot help believing that He truly understands and that He really favors the undertaking that we begin here tonight.